Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Celtic Down Under weekend review. My name is Anthony McGuire. I'm joined by Dave Campbell and Paul Massey as we looked at St Mirren 2, Celtic 5. Long weekend here in Perth. Monty's very happy about it. We are going to dissect what was a bit of a topsy-turvy arm wrestle of a game. Actually, not a bad game to watch. It was two teams having a bit of go at each other, so that was a bit of a change, which was nice. And, winning at Paisley is not for every team in Glasgow either. Dave, how's your long weekend been, mate?
Pretty standard. I don't no major events with me. I just got on with it and caught up with the full game today. I'd seen the result and a bit of the highlights over the weekend, but I caught up with the full game today, or as much of it as I could get in. But yeah, like you say, it's a tough place to go. As what's it called now? Smizer Stadium.
Love Street, what do you want to call it?
Yeah. So tough place to go. And we'll talk about the ins and outs here. But yeah, we came through it, and we're in the home straight now.
We are. Four wins does it, I think. Is that, and that's provided that our rivals don't drop points between now and then, or obviously we beat them in a couple of weeks' time. Paul, long weekend, mate. What was on the dance card this weekend?
Extra long weekend for me. I took Friday off as well, so I was lucky enough to be at Red Hill Auditorium to see Fontaine's DC on Thursday night. One of my favourite new bands. Haven't seen them live, so great opportunity to see them at a really good outdoor venue. Although it is a little bit of a trek, but yeah, it was good night and great show. And then Friday was just a bit of a chilled one. Had a wedding yesterday, so a little bit worse for wear today, but relatively tame finish to that. It was home before midnight. But good weekend. Bit hot to be at a wedding yesterday. It was 37, 38 degrees.
Were you in a kilt or?
No. I was dressed for the weather as much as you could be. Some linen pants and jacket. But still hot. The fact you've got to wear a jacket at 38 degrees. But I feel like you can't really turn up. Like, I know a lot of the Aussies just in shirt sleeves, rolled up shirts. It's like, not even tucked in. Come on. You got to wear at least a jacket. No tie, but you got to wear a jacket to a wedding, I think. So it was a bit cozy for the ceremony, which was outdoors. But then, back to the hotel and nice aircon venue. And plenty of libations courtesy of the happy couple. So decent night out.
Well, I think I outgigged you this weekend, Paul, because I had Peter Garrett of Midnight Oil fame on Friday night at the East Perth Power Station, which is actually a really cool venue. So Perth Festival has that for the next 4 years, apparently. So definitely check out a show there next year if you are that way inclined. And then Camilla Sullivan at the Embassy on Saturday night, Irish folk singer. So she did sort of cabaret, which was really good. So was telling stories about Sinead O'Connor and Man from the Pogues. So that was pretty cool. And then I saw a interactive puppet show called Night Night last night, which was exceptionally good. So that was quite good, and a couple of meals out and about town. So, and I had to work today, so somebody's got to keep the economy going. So I got a long weekend in anyway, so that was the main thing. So, but we're here to talk about Celtic. And like I said, 5-2 winners. A few guys in the comments have shouted out 3 wins if Rangers beat Dundee at Dens. And John Clements saying that 3 wins does it. So we are definitely in that home straight, and the fact that we can get that done before the split, just shows you how dominant we have been and how poor our rivals have been. But let's not compare ourselves to that lot. But Barry's 100% record didn't last too long on Armed Forces Day. Not very staunch, but I'm sure we'll touch on that at the end of the show if you stay with us. But Dave, obviously we came off a good win against Aberdeen at Celtic Park during the week. Just a quick double check of the team lineup. I think the only change going into the the St Mirren game was the reintroduction of Adam Ida up front at the expense of Jota, which pushed Maeda back out to left wing and left the rest of the team unchanged. How are we? Obviously, I didn't have you on last week, so how do you feel Celtic's been travelling this past week or so? Because obviously that's the third game in 7 days, as Brendan Rodgers was very quick to point out.
I think overall it's been very good, and I noticed from yesterday from Aberdeen as well, we're taking a lot more of our chances now. We had a bit of the season where we were making all sorts of chances and couldn't, and weren't getting the goals we deserved. Our XG must have been quite high, but we're outscoring our XG just now. And I know a lot of people don't like that XG stuff, but we're outscoring that because we seem to be taking. Yesterday we had 9 shots on target and scored 5 goals. I mean, it's more than 50%. So that's very good. And I think since I don't want to say getting the pressure of the Champions League off our backs is a good thing, because I don't think it is in the long term. But we need to be trying to be a bit better. But you know what? Yeah, it's home straight now. We're never going to win the Champions League. We took it to the stage. We took Bayern right to the last kick of the ball. It was heartbreaking. It was what it was. But now we can concentrate on winning the league and winning the Scottish Cup and doing another treble, which is our bread and butter, and that's where we need to be. And I think yesterday, Aberdeen during the week, we just showed that we are the best team in the country, even when we're in second gear. Because I don't think in either game you could say we were outrageously good. We weren't great during the week, but scored 5 goals. We were a bit better yesterday, but it was such a physical game. It was such a. I mean, St Mirren are a good team and they're well drilled, and Stephen Robinson has them. Stephen Robinson has them running like a well-oiled machine. So it was a physical big game, and I'm sure we'll get into the ins and outs and the actual goals. But that last half an hour, when we changed the 3 midfielders, Ida and the 2 midfielders, we just powered through them. We just showed our quality. And that's what we're doing now, and I think that's what's going to be the picture till the end of the season. I would be very surprised if we drop points anywhere. I'm not saying it can't happen, because as the turn of the year showed, and Dundee and the other place showed, you can do that. It can easily happen, but I think we look really strong, and we're going to just power through and get the results we need quite quickly, and then it's just to get in the Scottish Cup final.
Yeah, no, that's a fair assessment, Dave. Paul, are you thinking this is probably going to be close to our starting lineup for the rest of the season, now that we are sort of in the home run, 1 game a week? I think Sean mentioned last week we've got one more sort of double header or 2 games in a week, but basically from here on in, 1 game a week, you really can't see that starting lineup changing. I mean, obviously Trusty came off injured, and we'll touch on that. But Maeda, I mean, he seems very dangerous at the moment. And Dave's saying that we're taking our chances, but you're right to say that since Teodor's left, Maeda's stepped up. And obviously other players who came off the bench also stepped up, but we'll touch on those in the second half when we get to it. But what would you sort of think of the starting lineup, and probably take us into the start of the game if you like?
Yeah, I wasn't surprised to see Ida sort of rotated back in. St Mirren, a big physical team, made a bit of sense, but I thought he was okay. Like he had some good link-up play. He held the ball up well, but he never got a goal. Obviously, you score 5 goals and your main centre forward doesn't get a goal. It's not ideal for him. I think he'll struggle to be a starter for the rest of the season. He's obviously, there's been a need to rotate him and Maeda, and obviously Jota still coming to full match sharpness and fitness. For me, you can't look past Isaac Maeda as the number 1 centre forward, because his goal scoring is incredible. And we look a more dangerous outfit. Obviously, he went with Maeda through the middle against Bayern because he felt and he knew that was the most dangerous lineup we could start with. And so I think Adamida will be back to a 30-minute or 20-minute rotated out option. He might get more starts when the league's wrapped up. But our strongest starting lineup is Maeda through the middle. And I think it's really kind of, it's almost laughable now looking back how much concern there was when, and we were all guilty of it, Kyogo being let go, and no full decent high quality centre forward brought in, and at least not now. Then obviously my main concern was for Europe at the start of next season, because there'll be a qualifier, etc., and you want players bedded in. Now your concern is, can you hang on to Maeda for next season? Because undoubtedly there'll be people all over the continent looking at him.
Well, Bayern Munich are talking about him. Like, they were blown away with his athleticism, the fact that he was still chasing them with 10 minutes to go. So phenomenal.
So yeah, so I think the team that started against Bayern Munich will be the likely start. That's the first choice 11 from, as far as I'm concerned, from now until the end of the season in the biggest games. Obviously it will depend on injury and obviously that form continuing, but that's sort of how I expect. I was quite happy with the team as it was put out, obviously for obvious reasons. And yeah, I thought we started well enough. It was the pitch didn't look great, obviously, but we dominated the ball. And yeah, obviously it took nearly half an hour, but I eventually got the breakthrough.
Dave, you had the luxury of having a bit of a rewatch today. Was there any of the early chances that we coughed up? Because I think we coughed up a few chances before Jeffrey Schlupp made it 1-0. Was there any sort of repeating theme there? I do recall one where Trusty was sort of caught the wrong side of Olisanya, but he obviously couldn't quite finish. But was there any sort of rhyme or reason to why we sort of gave up quite a few chances in that first half an hour or so?
I think I think we struggle against teams who are very physical and very well drilled. We give up the ball. We try to play our game, which is understandable. We're the better players. We should be trying to play our game, but we don't always adapt very quickly to maybe what's happening in front of us. Is that a Brendan Rodgers instructions? Probably more likely that than anything else, because I think there are players in the team that would say, right, let's do X, Y, Z, and Brendan Rodgers doesn't want that. But we do tend to, when that happens, and go back, as I say, to the at the turn of the year when we played at Ibrox, they done that for 95 minutes. That was the best game they've played against us in 5 years. St Mirren done it for 70 minutes yesterday. Dundee done it against us for the 90 minutes of that game. And we give up chances then because we're not playing the same physical game. And I understand, I can see both sides of the argument, to be honest, because he wants us to play in a certain style. So when we step into Europe, it's a different style of game. But Scotland isn't always like that. And I think that's when we're going to pick up the odd defeat and things like that. So that's I wouldn't say it's a concern. I just think it's a pattern. Unless we spend real money on, and I'm talking about 20-30 million on a defender that can do both sides of that. And we're not going to spend that. We're not
unlikely.
Going to do that. Yeah. So we need to be bringing, like we're doing, 6 and 7 and 8 million pound players in and developing them. Trusty can be erratic at times, as can Liam Scales. But I think it's because they're drilled in a certain way on the training pitch. And Peter Grant was mentioning it through Celtic TV on the commentary, how he felt that we weren't, when the two fullbacks were marked and we were coming out with the ball, St Mirren were on a high line, and we should be going through the middle. But if they're just marking every single player, which is what they were doing, and as I say, we come up against it every now and again, they just get it right, they get it spot on, they've got the energy, they've got the physicality. Where can you play the ball? And the minute you step into the midfield, you're shutting off maybe the pass to the right hand side or the left hand side or through the centre, because that player's coming in, because they know where to run and they know how to shut the lines off. So that's. But again, I think that's probably Brendan Rodgers telling them that. It's not. I don't think players are making that decision on the day to say we're going to play like this. They're being drilled like that, and that's how he wants us to play. That's what I see when we're looking at those chances we give up. and we rely, no, rely the right word. Casper Schmeichel is there to stop that, and he does. We've got a really top quality goalkeeper, and he stops a lot of that. He gets unlucky from time to time, and sometimes you just can't do anything about it. But
I think St Mirren's second goal tips into the unlucky category because I mean, like as much as that laddie meant to hit it, I don't think he meant to hit it like that. And you know, Jasper was nearly, he still nearly got a fingertip to it, but yeah, I think that falls into the unlucky category. That one.
The first one you can do nothing about. It's just quality. It's just pure quality.
The only thing I would say is I think the wall's back a good 10 yards. I think, like, apart from that, there's not much you can. I mean, obviously, don't give away the foul in the first place would be the obvious thing to say. But yeah, I mean that Declan Jones finish there, you can't really argue with that. Ex-Hun, so obviously he was trying like a bear. Paul. The first goal, obviously we weathered a bit of pressure. Casper Schmeichel did pull a really good save, made himself big for one of St Mirren's chances. But obviously Jeffrey Schlupp, what strikes me for the first goal is just the fact that it sort of, let's say it comes out of nothing, but he didn't really telegraph that he was going to shoot. And then just sort of quick feet, pulls the pin, and then obviously gets the defender's legs, and then keeper unsighted, but still hits off the core, out off the post and at the back of the net. I mean, great goal. I mean, hard to say that I hate to sort of play one against the other, but you wouldn't exactly see Greg Taylor maybe pulling that off. But it was just an individual goal, and like I said, a little bit out of nothing.
Well, it's a really good strike. It's a really clean strike. But I had a look at it again today, and actually, it's not quite out of nothing. There's a bit of good build-up play beforehand. And the one thing I noticed when I watched it back is there's absolutely no pressure on the ball from St Mirren. So for a team that want to be physical and get in your face and try and put you under pressure, and they had done that earlier in the game, they backed off us right across the pitch. I think AJ picks it up in just inside our half, and he gets his head up and he shoots a really good pass into Adam Ida, who's dropping deep. And then he just touches it off to Kuhn, and then Kuhn's allowed to drift from right to near enough left, unchallenged. He's allowed the freedom to just run across the pitch. And once he gets to the left-hand side, it's an easy little pass into Schlupp, and from there he does a lot right. He clearly just gets it out of his feet. He gets his head up, and then you can say he's got a bit of luck as it goes through the defender's legs, but he hits it really clean and hard and low. And at that point, it's difficult for any keeper to try and keep that out. He gets a nice little bounce just in front of the goalkeeper and then a click off the post. It's a pretty hard one to save, but I think the issue before that is there's just not enough. They allow us to play through, and there's not enough pressure. And great to see a fullback in Schlupp who's willing to get into the box and produce end product. And it wasn't the only time over the course of the night that he caused a threat down that side. Yeah. So really good goal from our point of view. Dave, your goalkeepers union, do you think the keeper should have done better with that one, or good strike?
It's a really clean, as you say, it's a really clean strike, and it goes through the defender's legs. It's hard because there's a lot of bodies in front of him as well. Sometimes the point of football is, and people question this, and not just with goalkeepers, but with outfield players as well. How come they can't reach the ball? Travels faster than you can move. And if the ball's hit that well and it's coming through bodies, you just don't know where it is. Going back to the beginning of that move, Celtic had 23 passes in the build up to that move. Because I seen it, I round it back to where it started, and I counted the passes. 23 passes. I think every player in the team's got touched it. The only one I'm not sure about is Maeda, but I think every player might have touched the ball in it. You're right. I think at that point in the game, St Mirren had just lost a bit of their energy because they had just run. We were trying to move the ball quick, and we were beginning to get a wee bit of hold of the game. And it wasn't so much that they just let us come. I think they just went, we need a rest here. And they didn't. They got themselves into a position where they thought they were probably defending well because they had so many people back. And then when we played it through, and you're right, initially, because Arnie Engels comes out, takes 2 passes in, one for Johnson and one for somebody else, and goes back to Johnson, and Johnson snaps it right up to Ida, which is where Ida was really good yesterday. He was good at just that wee layoff and then moving. He didn't get his goal. He didn't get really any major chances, I don't think, but he didn't get his goal. And then when he'd done that, he was linking up really well. That's part of his game he's developing, and I think that's the bit that next season we might see really well. And then the strike's just, it's not a great deal of keeper. If it's an inch further in towards the goal, you might get it. It's like we said, it hits the inside of the post. It's as close, as far away as he could possibly be. So I don't think you can really give the keeper much grief for that. But you've just got, and Schlipp's just looking like a player. He just looks like a player. People might say we panicked. I don't think we panicked. I think Brendan would have known his quality, but he looks like he's going to be. I would absolutely be throwing what we can at him to keep him and rotate him with Kieran Tierney. I think he'd be a great player to have as backup, and not even backup. Look, so you're both going to get 30-40 games each.
Yeah, absolutely, and he's got the versatility to play through midfield or higher up as well. But you don't play for what 10 years and 250 games in the Premier League if you're a mug. So he's obviously in great shape still at 32. Yeah, I agree with you.
No brainer, lads. If we want to sign him at the end of the season, he wants to come 100%. On a reduced wage.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's some. I read something on social media somewhere. Somebody saying, he's probably not won anything anywhere in his career, and say, look, you know what, you're going to get Champions League or at least Europa League for the next couple of seasons, and you're going to get a few medals, and you're no skint. You're not sitting there when and Kasper Schmeichel, because Kasper Schmeichel took a big wage drop, as did Joe Hart when he came. He might be in his ear because Joe Hart's just still about the club and saying, listen, this is the best move you might ever make. This will be your best 2 or 3 years of your career.
Well, it's not like they're getting paid buttons to play for Celtic either. Like, still getting decent. You'll still be on 25 grand a week. I mean, it's not bad change. All right, it's no Premier League, man. It's no 60,000 a week. But I mean, like you say,
and that was the thing about Taylor. We weren't going to give him 25 grand a week as a backup to Kieran Tierney, but Schlupp's probably worth that, because if you do need to drop Kieran Tierney, which you will have to, because he's just so injury prone. And you need to do that in Europe, for example. Schlupp's got probably more physical attributes to play at that level in Europe than Greg Taylor is. Although I'm a fan of Greg Taylor, physically he's not the same size as him. It's as simple as that.
And he and I think the thing for me was near the end of the game, he's still doing a lung busting run down the wing to clip that ball over for Yang to make it 5-2.
Yeah.
So. All right, so I apologise. Monty had a wee moment there, so I had to sort of step out of the conversation for 30 seconds. So obviously we went in at the half 2-1 up. We got a penalty. Diaz Almeida had a reasonably quiet half by his standards, and then obviously just pops up. And I think the commentator in the BBC, he was basically saying, Maeda, he's been a bit quiet. They really can't stand off him. And then next minute, lunging tackle, brought him down, clumsy, missed the ball completely. And, an easy penalty decision for the referee on that one. Arnie Engel steps up, cool as you like, passes it straight down the middle. His penalty taking in the league, 6 for 6. Only missing that one in Young boys. There you go. So that was 2-1. You probably, the commentators were saying, St Mirren are unlucky, didn't take their chances, but we were clinical. And as you say, Dave, there's been weeks gone by where we haven't been clinical. We've gone into these games maybe 1 each, 1-0 down, when we quite easily could have been 2-1 up. And in this case, we actually do take our chances and go in with a bit of a lead, a lead of 1 goal. Start the second half. Obviously, it doesn't take too long for St Mirren to get back into it. Bit of a half clearance from Alistair Johnson, header sort of balloons up, and then it falls to the St Mirren laddie who, as we just discussed previously, sort of taps it, hits it in hard into the ground, bounces up, and sort of scoops over Schmeichel's head to make it 2 each. And at that point, you have to say it's probably game on to a degree, but we sort of seem to rally And then that's when I believe that'd be roughly when we made our substitutions. I think it's usually our usual 60-minute mark.
64 minutes, aye.
64 minutes. So obviously triple change of Jota, McCowan and Yang on. And the interesting one, obviously, Ida and Kuhn, fair enough. But the other one coming off was Callum McGregor, which you don't see happen all that often, Paul. A few discussions online I've seen sort of saying that Hatate seemed to get released once McGregor went off. Engels seemed to play the sixth role really well. There's one particular tackle he put in I thought was exceptional. He sort of worked his way back to the right back position and put in a really good sort of closing tackle to win the ball back to Celtic's possession. Is it a case of St Mirren blowing a gasket and we just ran over them? Or do you think there is a case for maybe a McCown, Hatate, Engels midfield three?
Well, I'm not convinced, to be honest. I thought they played very well at that point, but to Dave's earlier points, obviously they've worked really hard for that first hour, and the tiredness is starting to creep in. McGregor's apparently managers on record as saying he felt some tightness in his calf, and came off as a precaution. So that's probably the main reason for him stepping out of a game early, because it doesn't really happen. But we've said this often enough. We need to find ways to rotate him out and give him a bit more of a break here and there, even if it's just for 20 minutes, half an hour at the end of the games. I thought Engels was excellent all game, actually, but I really enjoyed his play from when he dropped into that role. And yeah, Hatate definitely felt a bit more freedom and release. And he was excellent in the last half hour, 40 minutes. Some really good touches, great feet. At the heart of most things that we were doing on an attacking sense. And yeah, I thought McCowan had a good 30, 40 minutes again. He's blowing hot and cold for me, to be honest. I think there's, he's had some average performances in recent weeks. Certainly not at the standard he came out of the gate at when he first arrived. And I don't know, maybe a bit of that is trying too hard almost, because he's been in and around, and I think at the beginning he was probably playing with a freedom, just delighted to be in a Celtic shirt, probably couldn't believe his luck. And I think as maybe he's developed into a regular member of the squad, he's itching to try and win a place. And I think we all know when you put yourself under extra pressure, you can force things a little bit and potentially just snatch at stuff, and maybe your decision making is not quite as good as it could be. So yeah, I think it was a better performance from him. He's had, like I say, I think he's had some average performances, and I think he was probably right to get hooked Easter Road the week before, along with the other two that went. You could have picked more than just the three, but I think those three were probably the right choices. I'm interested to see Engels play deeper again. And I think if Bernardo was fit, you might see that three play. I think Bernardo's a much further along in his development as a Celtic midfielder than McCowan is at this point. Not to say he can't get there. So yeah, I think the only other thing I would say on Engels with the penalty is, I just thought the penalty was class. There was clearly some verbals from the goalie, because he gave him a bit back after he scored. So I think the goalkeeper must have been trying to noise him up or distract him. And then he's just given him the eyes and just rolled it straight down the middle and made the keeper look daft and given him a little bit back. So which I thought, I'm all for a player that's got that little bit of swagger, bit of gallousness that we say in Scotland, and really sort of start playing with a bit of confidence. And I thought he was excellent again. But yeah, I think the midfield really fired in the last half an hour. Whether that's just personnel, I think it's probably circumstance as well in terms of the time of the game and just general fitness levels, etc.
Dave, have you been on the Yang gang, or are you jumping on board?
No, I've said for a while there's something in Yang. You can see the improvement. Now that he's getting his porridge every morning, that might help. As Brendan mentioned yesterday, but there's a player in there. There's absolutely a player in there. He just needs he was confidence. He's young as well. I think that people forget that. And Scotland is a very harsh place for people coming from abroad and being world class within 15 minutes of being on a football pitch.
That is a very fair point.
If you go back 5 or 6 weeks, you think about how a lot of people, Celtic fans as well, not just outside Celtic, but Celtic fans as well, were having a go at Hatate, Yang, Engels, Kuhn. Kuhn was more last year, but Kuhn as well to some degree, because he was very good at the start of the season and he's dipped a wee bit. But then who doesn't over the course of a season? And all of these players will be sold lemons, will be sold this. Ida was terrible as well. And you go, well, hold on a minute. We're 16 points clear in the league. We've only lost 2 games. And these guys are young. They've come to a new country. They've settled. They're trying to settle in. They're trying to get used to the game, because the game is quite different here than Belgium and Korea and all these places. So we need to give them time. And he's taking Yang a bit of time, but I think the Yang is definitely got something in him. I've seen a couple of social media tweets saying we're going to sell this boy for 20 million, which, you know, these guys jumping on the bandwagon now, I see, because there was a lot of abuse being hurled at Yang. And this is where I'll bring up Mr. Keevins at Clyde One, because he needs to start eating humble pie at Celtic, because I listened to some of it today from the podcast. I try to keep my ear in that. I can't take it every day, but I try to keep my ear in to see what they're saying. And you know, him and that station are very much, the other team are going to do great. They're going to do great. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. And it's always, you know, you never know with Celtic and stuff, and they have a go at our players quite quickly. And I just think they need to start maybe giving Celtic more credit, and the players at Celtic more credit than they get. I'll leave that there. But
to be fair though, I'd rather than bum up the opposition, because, you know, it just makes it even funnier, like when they slip up at home to Motherwell.
Yeah.
And, you know, Barry Ferguson's the second coming of whatever, and, you know, it's laughable, because they've got to feed that machine and that rhetoric, otherwise, you know, they've nothing to talk about, because, yeah, like you say, they couldn't give Celtic praise even if they could try, sort of thing. But it talks to the goal, because Hatate sort of came into a game, I think one of the comments here saying he seems to be getting stronger as games go on, and I have to say, you know, he finished the game like a freight train, and he was popping up, you know, all over. But the pick out here for Yang, I thought was excellent, but the finish was good, and Yang could have had his hat trick if he stayed on side for his second one. But it's always through the third goal, which ultimately, you know, gets us to a winning situation.
Well, I don't think it's a coincidence that we score very quickly after he makes those Brendan Rodgers makes those changes, because one of the things that's been evident in the whole season is his timing of the changes. I know he does it roughly 60-65 minutes every game, but who he's bringing off and who he's bringing on, what he's doing is he's replacing probably what he feels is the same quality with the same quality. And these players are coming on fresher, and they're then that team are just going, this guy again, you know, and if you look at Yang's performance, getting him up to speed, giving him a bit of space to move, McGregor going off for whatever reason has opened up the midfield, and Hatate did start playing like Hatate can play, because he was trying it a bit in the first half and he wasn't making, the passes were getting cut out. At that point in the game, the passes were getting through. He was holding on to the ball really well. When the ball goes out wide and it comes back in, I think it comes back in from Jota to him, rather than just, you know, quickly make a pass, he actually puts his foot on it for a second or two, and Yang makes the run. Yang points to where he wants it to go. Yang's in space. It's a great ball to the back post, and it's actually a very, very, very good header, because he's got to generate a bit of the power as well, because it's not a fired in cross. It's kind of more of a chip and more of a cultured cross. So Yang's got to put a bit of neck power into that, and he gets it in the inside post as well, past the keeper. And I think that at that point Celtic probably could have scored a bit more after that. We could have got a fourth quite quick after that, and we didn't. It seemed to travel on. And I'll be honest, before we get the fourth, I'm going to say I think we were lucky not to have a penalty awarded against us.
Oh, you're reading my mind, Dave. I was just getting there. You must be looking at my cheat sheet. But no, that's this is the next point of conversation. So obviously, with 3-2, critical moment in the game. Alistair Johnson was a sliding challenge in. I believe he did touch the ball, but the follow through is definitely there, and he does catch. I'm trying to think who he tackled, but it definitely catches him on the ankle. There is seemingly a reasonable amount of force there. So you think, Dave, we were?
I think it's 50-50. I think the gauge I use is, am I asking for that at the other end? And the answer is yes. But going back, it was actually Paul John Dykes made a comment on Twitter about how, well, if you look back at the Bayern penalty at Celtic Park, well, the penalty we didn't get against Bayern, when it's the defender gets in, doesn't go in unfairly. There's no real force in it. Does he get the ball? No. However, he nicks the ball after the Celtic players got it, and that's kind of what happened with Alistair Johnson. Although Alistair Johnson's a bit more erratic in his slide, and I think the slide,
more force,
and I think that's what could have given it as a penalty. And I think, as I say, if that's at the other end, I think we're asking for that. So I think we're a bit fortunate not for it not to be awarded.
Paul, I think I know what you're going to say, but what do you think?
It's a stonewaller. We got out of jail majorly, and that, like, if you take the blinkers off, it's another example of VAR having an absolute shambles. Like, that's what it's there for. If Johnson gets any contact on it, it's a tiny little flick off the studs, and that's because the studs are already showing. That's that whole thing about, if he touches the ball first, that's okay. We all know that's nonsense. We heard that. We were reminded of that in the Bayern incident that Dave talks about. He's not in control. His studs are up. He makes full contact with the ankle. He endangers an opponent. It's 100% a penalty. I'd be livid if we didn't get that at the other end. So, and I agree with Meister 95 here. I think the one at Bayern was probably a pen for us as well. If that's in the other end of the ground, Bayern 100% get that penalty on VAR. Obviously, VAR wanted to give it. He told the ref to have a look. VAR suggested it should have been given. The referee decided to stubbornly hold his decision. I think if he's at the other end and it's with Bayern Munich, that big club stuff probably gets the favourism. So yeah, I agree. They're both penalties, and St Mirren should feel pretty hard done by. It's like I said, another example of VAR making a prize cock up. They're getting involved in stuff they got no business getting involved in last week at Easter Road. Now they're keeping out of stuff they absolutely should be involved in. I've said it all along. The technology is not as good as it should be. We should be spending more money on the tech, but the tech's not the major issue. It's the absolute morons we've got working it. Ultimately, this is a people problem, and we've got failed referees running VAR. We've got referees that aren't good enough to be on pitch anymore, and they're the ones in the VAR studio. It's a shambles. Willie Collum needs to fix it. He'll be out every month with another. He's had to come out and say, 4 out of the 5 said it was the wrong decision at Easter Road. I don't know who the 5th one is. He's obviously, he plays in the flute band at the weekend in his spare time. Like, it's just a nonsense. So yeah, it's 100%. It's 100% a penalty. And 60 seconds later, we go up and scores the 4th and kill the game. So if they get a penalty in the 87th minute, there's 5 or 6 minutes added on. We potentially still get a goal to win the game, but it would have been squeaky bum time. Whereas we go up the other end, we score a 4th, and then we put the gloss on it with a 5th. I think St Mirren, their players, fans, and manager can all be a little bit disappointed.
Yeah,
I think the only thing I would say is maybe that balances out for the terrible decision from the week before, and maybe it's just over a season you get some that go for you and some that shouldn't. But the whole point of VAR is that it shouldn't be like that. It should be right every time. But it's Scotland. We have part-time referees.
I think that's unfair. I don't think it's just going to be right every time, because there's always going to be interpretation and human error. The issue I think in Scotland is it's so erratic at times. It's so
it's consistency. It always comes back to consistency.
It's really inconsistent. They've got, like you say, at Hibs last week, absolutely no. They should just be saying, we can't make that out. We've got to give that goal. And we can't get involved in this. And then like that, they've got to give the ref, I think, the opportunity for the St Mirren penalty. Go and see this again. Go and look at this again, or at least I read that IFAB are putting out a rule, and they're going to start at, I think, in the World Club Championships, that they're going to have sound on the in ground. They're going to start doing it at big competitions. We need to get that in Scotland, because we need to hear. We can't just keep asking for the audio after. We need to hear what's going on at the time, because I don't believe that the referees aren't. You can see it on the mics; they're talking to them all the time. Because you saw Matthew McDermott yesterday; he was constantly telling his VAR team what he's given decisions for, which is exactly what he should be doing. And then they're saying, right, fine, okay. But if he said to them, "This is what I saw," he can't have saw what Anthony Johnson, because his position was probably behind Anthony Johnson, so he can't have seen Anthony Johnson's follow through. So the VAR team should be saying, look, you need to go back and look at that. You don't need to change your mind, because the referees don't, but go back and look at it.
Well, this is the thing. I think when you go to the monitor, the feeling is that 99 times of 100, they're going to change the decision based on, you've been sent to the monitor, you've gotten it wrong. But maybe there should be a case for having a look at it and decide for yourself, and the interpretation. But I would say, and I always use this as an example, but I'd be using cricket as an example and saying it's a review for handball, offside, whatever. And you go through the same 3-step process depending on whatever it is. So check the initial incident. Yep. It seems like a clear goal. Okay, check for offside in the phase of play leading up to it. Is there any fouls committed in the phase of play up to it? No. It's a goal. Tick, tick, tick. Green light, green light, green light. And but in cricket, you don't see that at the ground. So at the ground, you just know that there's a decision pending. But on TV, you get a stepwise, and you hear the third umpire or the VAR referee going through the decision as he's going through it. So for me, there is a protocol or a way to sort of adapt that to football to some degree. So at least, all right, it doesn't help the people on the ground, but at least people watching it on telly, you're not waiting on Ian Crocker going, they're taking a long time looking at this. Like, you can actually figure out what they're actually looking at. What are they looping and rewinding, and what are they saying while they're looking at it? I think, that would definitely go a long way for transparency's sake. And then you can understand that, okay, they've come to that decision rightly or wrongly. But I think we feel that because we're left a bit in the dark, we're left to interpret ourselves. And then that's where it's like, they're cheats, they're this, they're that, they're whatever.
So Scotland, listen, we've had our issues with this in the past in regards to the fairness of officials and the fairness of the authorities. We know that. And are we ever really going to get rid of that monkey off our back? I don't know. However, as you say, if somebody can explain the process at the time, you might not agree with it, but you can at least say the perspective. And I think that's what people aren't seeing at the moment, and going, but what do we do with this? And that's why people are saying get rid of it, where it's not going to go anywhere. I don't think, because actually probably if you, I've not seen any stats. I would say it probably gets 60 to 70% of things right. But it's the other 20 to 30% that's not right that are going to make the headlines. And if you can get that done as a smaller amount, that makes it easier.
Let's bring a comment in here from Maestro95 saying no conclusive evidence from the third umpire. Well, in that case, in cricket, if there's no conclusive evidence, the on-field decision stands. And that's ultimately what has to happen. If you don't have a clear way of determining to overturn the decision of the two guys on the park, the linesman and the referee, then it stands as it is. That's the whole point of the exercise. But it's just to cast another eye over it to say, well, hey, you missed this, or and there was a lot of clamour about a handball goal during the week as well. That was very unclear. And again, it's one of these ones where how can you conclusively say that a hand was involved in that goal? So again, it's another similar situation. Paul, I'll give you the final word on this before we move on, because obviously we're coming up on the 45-minute mark. But is there anything else you want to add to the VAR discussion for now, or do you want to just call it a night on that?
Yes, just similar. Obviously, rugby union's exactly the same, and I've watched a bit of rugby over the last couple of weeks, both local in Australia and obviously Six Nations. And it's exactly the same. If they, and it's even harder in rugby because there's so many bodies all over the ball, on the ground, etc. You get guys going for pushover tries and tons of defenders back trying to block them on the line. and they'll always get the third umpire or the video ref to have a look at that. And I heard it, like I was watching the Western Force Queensland Reds highlights this morning, and there was one where it looked like he got the ball down, but there was this heap of bodies and there's no camera angle that shows it's conclusively down. And I think that was even what the commentators were saying, or the pundit was saying, is like, that's almost certainly a try, but there's no conclusive proof that it's down and grounded and over the line. So unfortunately, you can't give it. You can only give something if you've got clear evidence to the contrary. So the ref on pitch didn't give it. And there wasn't a camera angle to show it. So it's the same stands. I think yeah, we haven't got to grips with how best to use it. But I think a lot of it is a competency issue rather than a tech. We obviously have got a poor version of the tech. I'd much prefer if we had the Premier League's version or the Champions League version, but obviously money and there isn't enough of it in Scottish football is a key issue. Dave's right, it's not going anywhere. We just need to get it better and use it better.
Consistently inconsistent. I think we will draw a line under that conversation with that little turn of phrase there. 2 goals to tap it off. Maeda, which I think was the goal of the night, because his touch for this, it just takes the defender completely out of play. Slots it home with his left foot, as cool, as calm as you like. Best forwards in the world score goals like that, and just it was just beautiful, and a great pick out from Yang as well. My pick of the goals. I know there was some good free kicks, and Schlup's was no slouch of a goal either. But and obviously Yang scored 2 crackers as well. But for me, that one Maeda was a peach. And then Yang gets his brace. What was this one? It was so the one he sort of
flew to the byline, and then
that's right. Yes, the one he rattled off his shin was offside. That's right. Yeah, it was just getting my chances mixed up. 2 good goals, and puts it, like you say, Dave. Paul puts the gloss on it. So turns a 3-2 into a 5-2. Makes it look far more comfortable. And obviously, Brendan Rodgers was powering after the game, saying that was one of his favourite wins of the season. And he understand that, because had to work for it. Didn't just come to us. Could have went either way. And like you say, that 3-2 with the penalty decision, could easily have been 3 each.
Tough place to go. 3 games in a week. And bad pitch, physical opposition that are well drilled and going well. You can see why he's delighted. And the things really open up now, right? I think I was listening or reading earlier on today. 7 games in December, 8 games in each of January and February, and we've only got 4 games in March, and one of them's already gone. So it's really going to ease up. Players have got time to recover. We've got time on the training pitch to work on stuff, and just basically be a bit more rested. And as the point we made earlier about the team being more consistent, because there's only 1 game a week, there'll be less chopping and changing. That means that, little bits of combination play in set parts of the pitch should be much slicker, because the same players are going to be playing with each other consistently again and again. So you'd expect us to shift up a gear or 2 again from this point, and certainly that's what I'm hoping and expecting to see, is that when we have only 1 game a week, the performance level usually goes up, and it's usually early in the season before we get into the guts of European campaigns, and at this point in the season when we start going back to 1 game a week. So as we've heard a few times, the time of season we come alive, and really we only need to come alive for a handful of games, and we'll have another treble in the bag.
Yes. We've got a big game coming up on Sunday, 11 p.m. kickoff here in Perth, against Hibs in the Scottish Cup. Hibs cracking win against Hearts last night. I watched the second half, all over Hearts. Apparently Hearts were over them in the first half, but tell you what, whatever David Gray said to me at half-time must have worked, because there's only one team looking like we're going to win it in the second half, and it was Hibs, and it was a wonderful goal that got them over the line, 2-1 winners. That's the second Edinburgh derby they've won in a row this season. So it'll be a tough game. So we're going to have to bring our A game and be intense. Obviously, we're at Celtic Park. I think obviously Celtic we played them a couple of weeks ago, so we're aware of what we're going to be up against. But I tell you what, it's going to be a cracking game because Hibs are probably you have to say, apart from us, the informed team in Scotland, based on.
Well, they are the informed team because that's 15, 16 games unbeaten. The last time they lost was at Celtic Park.
The time before, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it will be a tough game, or it certainly should be a tough game. I've got a funny feeling that we won't need much encouragement to get up for this one. You know, it's one slip up and you're out of a treble. We won't want to let that happen. We're at home. We've just had a kick in the backside from these lot a couple of weeks ago. They'll be bang up for it. I think if we come out all guns blazing, could be over by half time. I certainly hope that that's the way it goes. Not necessarily expecting that, but the longer they're in it, obviously the tougher it'll get. But I do think that we'll want to put a real good performance in, and I do expect us to come through with a goal or two to spare.
Dave, you're feeling the same way?
Yeah, it smells like Aberdeen to me. When Aberdeen we came back and got the 2 each, was that at Celtic Park or was that at Pittodrie? I can't remember. But they come back and got
this time at Celtic Park, yeah. This season.
Yeah, they got the 2 each, and then was it a week later, 2 weeks later, we had them in the semi-final and we just battered them all over the pitch.
6-0, yeah.
I don't know if we'll beat Hibs 6-0, but I think Brendan Rodgers will get the team up for this, because I think the team rightly should feel hard done by. We weren't good in that first half against Hibs. However, we were a lot better in the second half, and if we get that goal, that gets allowed, we win that game. We go on and win that game. And I believe that, I think that will be incentive enough. But this team don't really need incentive, because Brendan Rodgers has got them drilled well. He's got them playing very well. We're going to have a full week's rest, like you say, for the first time in God knows how long. That's something that Brendan did kind of mention it at one point, but I think it's something that other teams seem to use a lot more than us, about, the games is squad rotation and blah, blah, blah. Celtic never really mention it. We just get on with it. We drop points now and again. We lose games now and again. And we just say right on to the next game. We don't go on about how many games we're playing in a week and how many games we're playing in a month. But since December, we have played a lot of football. And now we've got that rest for a week. I think that makes us very dangerous going into this last part of the season, as I mentioned earlier. Because I think that's when, and we've only really got Bernardo injured. Nobody else is an injury worry. I know James Forrest is still probably injured, but he's not first team choice at the moment anyway. So we've got a full strength squad going into this last phase of the season. And if we can hit any sort of form, think of the goals we've scored recently. If we start hitting form and start scoring goals again and start hitting third and fourth gear, we could be blowing teams away 5 and 6-0. And there's one team specifically we owe a 5 and 6-0, but we've not done it for a couple of years. And I'm hoping that's coming up.
So that's coming up in a couple of weeks' time. We've got us at the cup game, and then we've got an international break, and then we come back. So
no, I think the cup game's next week, and the derby's the week after. And then it's the international break.
I thought we had a gap in between.
Derby's the 16th.
It's the Friday Day week.
That's right. Sorry, it is. Yeah. Sorry. No.
And then the international break's the weekend after, I think.
Yeah, that's pretty standard. Normally we play them before an international break.
Yeah,
so we'll kick lumps at each other. Hopefully. Barry. I'm sure Barry will be telling them, because he does the taxi driver. Are you talking to me? Into the wall, the toilet wall. And apparently that's what psychs them up.
So I read that as well.
Can you imagine actually saying that, like, to a journalist? Like, I mean,
I know
he's not very bright, but I mean, come on. I mean, really?
Imagine telling somebody that. I know. I was punching the door. I was having. What was it? I asked the bathroom door if it wanted a square go. What, really? It's worse than Gaza having a nip at half time.
I mean, just like I said, he had no answers after Motherwell beat them 2-1 either, which made it even more hilarious. He's like, I think we played that bad, but it wasn't enough fight. It's like, well, I thought you were brought in to give him a bit of fight, Barry. But anyway, they're struggling. All right, let's do man of the match. So Yang was the official man of the match. He was very chuffed with his wee little trophy thing. And Are we going against that, or do we think someone played better, or do we think he deserves it because he's missed out on a few in this panel this year, or because he's had a couple of good games, but somebody's just trumped him a wee bit. But Dave, do you think he's a worthy recipient this week, or have you got someone else you want to put forward?
I kind of feel a bit guilty about saying I can understand why he was given it, but Engels was the best player in the park by a country mile. Possibly Schlupp, but Engels was absolutely fantastic the whole game. Mentioned earlier when Ali Johnson in the second half gets taken out, and there's a free kick I know is irrelevant. The work rate he did to get back into that right back position to cover that's to me that's his position. He's the number 6 as it used to be. He's going to sit in the middle of midfield. He's going to dictate play. He's got the ability to move up and make the passes. And since he had his wee dip in form, he's come back and he's absolutely fantastic. I think he was the man of the match, but I can understand why it was given to Yang, because he deserves a break. The boy deserves a bit of kind of profile.
A few lads in the comments making shouts for Schlupp for man of the match. I kind of felt he was a wee bit slightly off the pace for their first goal. We kind of probably should maybe put him under a wee bit more pressure, but from the cross, but probably nitpicking slightly. Paul, who are you thinking?
Yeah, I think it was the second goal, wasn't it? It was
second goal. Yes, sorry, yeah.
Schlupp had a good game. Obviously, top and tail the match with the opener and an assist for the last. I thought he was generally pretty good. One of the better performers and over the course of the 90 odd minutes. Hitati came onto a game and looked really good in the last 30-40 minutes. And Yang, amazing cameo, 2 goals and assists, even though he's only on the pitch for 30 minutes. You can see why he was given it. He certainly has to get that headlines, and that, I think this big, you're right that the best goal is Maíra's goal, which his pass for is incredible. And just on that, I think Maíra, that's becoming a bit of a trade between that and the sort of the 1-2 to himself and effectively, carving a defender open and then scoring, and the late arrival into the middle or back post and knocking it into the empty net. They're the kind of 2 trademark Maíra type goals, of which he's been contributing a load. So yeah, you can see why Yang gets the headlines. For me, I agree with Dave. I thought Engels was head and shoulders above anyone else on the park in both positions. He's just stepping up week after week. And I've said it before, I'll say it again, 11 million. There was a lot of heat for 11 million. Mm-hmm. 11 million is already proven to be an absolute bargain. And whenever it is that he eventually goes, I expect it'll probably be for a club record fee, and that the 11 million will be dwarfed by whatever he goes for. So enjoy him for as long as we can. He's an absolute class act, and I expect to see him going very far in the game. Yeah, no brainer for me. Engels, man of the match again.
Poor Yang. All right, Engels it is. We'll get one day. Maybe against Rangers. You never know. Or against Hibs. So yeah. So again,
he wasn't excellent. He was excellent in his time.
I mean, you could two goals. It could have been 3 because if he strayed a yard offside, if he'd have stayed onside, he would have still scored. If he had a hat trick, then you definitely couldn't have looked past him. But no. Excellent. And the bench changed it, and it brought on fresh legs and a bit of vigor for us. And St Mirren, just like I said, I think they just ran themselves a little bit into the ground. And again, we get that third goal. It just kind of makes it harder for them. And obviously we get 4 and 5 and seal the deal and make it look comfortable. Everyone, thank you for joining us. Please like and subscribe to the episode. It helps other like-minded Celts find us. Before we go, we will do some recommendations for anything that we've come across in the last week. Dave, anything you want to give a shout out to, or something you've been watching or reading or listening to?
Yeah, well, a couple of things. So Manchester City have reached the Night Series Cup final in the NPL, the NPL Night Series Cup final, which is at Sam Kerr Park, which is up in the city somewhere. That's on Saturday at 5:30, I believe. So if anybody in the area, local team or whatever, or if you're just looking for a bit of football, go up and see them, which is why I'm wearing the top today. The other thing is, back home, I done a little bit of musical theatre with a group called Sweet for Addicts, which works with mental health and people involved who had been involved in the addiction cycle. And they have a show this coming April, I think it is. So just get the details up. So yeah, it's Thursday 10th, Friday 11th, and Saturday 12th of April at the Boardwalk Theatre in Glasgow, which is in Brunswick Street. It's Sweet for Addicts is the name of that's the website. So go and have a look there. Absolutely fantastic group. I know the director very well, Mark Williamson. He's a good guy. He's a good Celtic fan as well. Yeah, get involved. If you want to get involved. But if you just want to go buy tickets in the show, because it is not for profit. It's they don't make any profit on it. So put back into the company. And they have 2 a year. So by all means, have a look at that. It's a really fantastic program.
Fantastic. No, definitely. If you're in the area for either of those, please check those out. Paul, for us this week, mate.
I have indeed. One of my favourite bands after a bit of hiatus are back with their 6th studio album called Constellations of the Lonely by Doves. Doves, their sixth studio album, 25 years after the release of the debut. They're back. They've gone through some tough times. Jimmy Goodwin, he's the main lead singer. He's also the bassist, sometime drummer, bit of percussion. They're a pretty cool band, Doves, because they all get involved in multi-instrumental work, as well as sharing vocals. Jimmy Goodwin's had mental health issues and addiction problems. So actually linking back to what Dave's just been talking about. So took some time out and hiatus from the band to get himself well. He is on the road to recovery and has been able to contribute to the album. He's still not touring with the band, so the brothers are taking the live music out without Jimmy at the minute, but hopefully he will be out on tour with them either later this year or maybe next year. So wish Jimmy Goodwin well. But yeah, Doves, if you're across any of Doves' work, new album's fantastic. It came out on Friday. Managed to get a couple of listens through already, but I think it's the type of album that will be rewarded with multiple listens. So yeah, check out Doves' Constellations of the Lonely. It's my album of the week.
Fantastic. Thank you, Paul. Drive to Survive is out this week, season 7 or 8, or where we're up to. So if you're into your Formula One on Netflix this week, it's coming out. Dare say we will probably binge most of that by the end of the weekend. Maesh likes to stand corrected and says that he thinks it will be 3-1 to Celtic based on his algorithm. I will happily take that. That will do me nicely. All right, we'll leave it there. Thank you everyone for getting involved in the comment section. Busy comment section as always. We'll be back next week talking about Celtic versus Hibs in the Scottish Cup. All that's left to say, guys, is hail, hail.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks, guys.